Jake, I'd like to tell you I missed the playoffs.
Because of Lamar? No, Lamar had a good game last week.
I know. Okay, here we go. Lamar, I lost by a point. My fourth time losing by a point, and nobody has scored more points against me than anybody else in the league. So there's nothing you really do about that. Nothing you do about that. Isaiah Likely drop in the end zone. Would have won it. James Cook doesn't fumble either time. Would have won it. The goal line was a killer for me. Just brutal. Welcome into Scoop City on a Thursday. I'm James Palmer. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please do it. Don't do one or the other, but we'd love for you to do both. This is a huge Week 15. I tell you about the parity that's going on in the NFL. We have two teams that have won 10 games straight, yet they're at home and they're underdogs. And we'll go into both of those cities as we take our road trip, as we do every single Thursday around the NFL. We're going to go to Buffalo and find out what's happening with Josh Allen and this offense. Did they find something in the passing game? I know it's been a struggle all year. We're going to get to the bottom of that. We're going to talk about the Denver Broncos and head to Denver, where I live right now, actually, and find out what's happening with Bo Nix in this offense. Are they becoming more efficient? That was the big question mark if they're going to make a Super Bowl run. And then the Rams and the Lions, a huge one in the NFC. The Rams just keep winning, but that division just stays so tough. Can they get that number one seed in the NFC? We'll find out. We'll go to all these places across the NFL. So let's start that road trip. All right, the first stop of our Thursday road trip. Joe Buscaglia joins us. Joe's one of our favorites here on the show. Always provides unbelievable information with a huge matchup coming up here in Foxborough. I know he loves to spend time at that Christmas store there in Foxborough to try to get some final holiday shopping done when he fits the Patriots in December. Joe, how you doing?
I'm great. And you know what's funny? Usually, there was a good 4 or 5 year stretch in a row where the Bills would have to go to New England right before Christmas or just after Christmas, that Christmas weekend. And me and my wife were looking at each other like, New England again? You have to go to New England again on Christmas weekend. Hey. So I can't say that I've been there. I've been to the Christmas store at an appropriate time before Christmas came around.
Yeah, you can visit in the summer if you'd like as well. I love that we're having this game. I love that we have an opportunity, the post-Brady era, maybe first time the Patriots can win the division since Brady's been gone. And this is only the second time in 50 years we have both these teams at least 5 games over 500 facing off with each other. So a lot at stake here, specifically for the team that you cover with the Bills. I want to know what team shows up. We've seen Miami or Atlanta, and then we've seen what they did against Kansas City or last week the way Josh plays. Can you put your finger on maybe the way the week leads up to the game, Joe, or whatever, of what Bills team we might see?
Yeah, it's been really difficult for them. A couple of games ago, with their Houston loss, I basically roasted them and said their consistency is inconsistency. That was the tale of their entire season, because you would have these incredible watershed wins, at the time, what looked like the win over Kansas City. And then you would come back and lose a clunker to Miami, who Miami has turned it around since that point. But the Bills were pretty much the catalyst to the Dolphins starting off that whole campaign. So I think they have improved. I don't want to say significantly over the last couple of weeks, but we have seen some tangible improvements, notably from the defense. And I know you're going to say, hey, they just let up 34 points to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But if you watched every single throw Joe Burrow made in that game, my God, that dude is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. So I don't give the Bills defense a pass, but I do understand a bit. And they also came away with 2 huge plays in that game, too. And then the Steelers game, too. I thought that was really a statement game from the Bills. And since the last time we talked, James, the thing that has changed the most to me is I think the Bills have made so many changes to their defense and how they have had it evolve over the year with how they're substituting on specific situations, players that they are using in the starting lineup above all else, getting a few guys back from injury. I think it all kind of shows to me that the defense is actually the reason why I think the Bills' ceiling is a little bit higher than the last time we talked. And not to say they're like championship caliber defense or anything like that, but when you compare what they had to what they have now, and with the ceiling raising just a little bit, combining that with Josh Allen playing like he usually does in December and in the playoffs, I think they might be onto something. Even though they have their warts, even though they have their very specific flaws on both sides of the ball, it's starting to come around to where they're finding out about themselves a bit later than they would have liked, but finding out about themselves right in the nick of time before they get to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's important. And the defense is going to be huge. I feel like this might be the game to where Drake Maye stays in the MVP conversation, or the Bills have the opportunity to maybe knock him out a little bit out of the MVP conversation. And with that said, how about Josh Allen? I feel like he's working his way back into the conversation with the way he's playing. Does he have to play the way we saw him play against Cincinnati for this team to make a playoff run? Does that have to happen week in and week out from here on out, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know from here on out, but in the playoffs specifically, yeah, I think so, because they've got the Browns next week, and I don't think Josh has to be superhuman against the Browns. And then they've got the Jets week 18 in the finale game in Highmark Stadium. So those two games, I think he doesn't have to be the superhero, but to know that he still has that in his golf bag is very important for them heading in, especially with the receiver room that the last time we chatted, we talked so much about that receiver group, and they've kind of found themselves a little bit into a group that they like with the receiver room. And that said, it's not nearly as good as most receiver rooms in the NFL, but they're trying to figure out ways to make it work in 2025 because they really don't have any means to add significantly at this point. So I think for them, with Josh playing the way that he is, the offensive line, they're about to get back to full health. Spencer Brown said yesterday that he's ready to go for this Sunday against the Patriots, and that's a huge addition to their offensive line because he does so much both in the pass and the run game. You know, I grade out the players every single week. To me, he has been one of their three best players, along with Josh Allen and their right guard Osiris Torrance this season. And having him back for this matchup specifically, I think is going to be humongous for them, especially with James Cook wanting to get a little bit past what happened against the Bengals too. Yeah, this is that combined with Josh playing like he did, I think is very helpful. But to answer your question, they're going to need him to do that because once the playoffs roll around, the defense is going to put a stopper on teams like they did against the Steelers. They're not going to completely come away with this game-changing play 1 week to the next. And eventually it's going to happen to go to Josh. And they just hope that the defense does just enough, more so than in other playoff performances, to be able to come away with wins.
Yeah, that's a great point. Joe wrote a great piece on this revamped, I guess you could call it, Joe, wide receiver
That's generous.
concept, I guess. I don't know. Game plan,
Yeah.
just feeling it out about how they're working this wide receiver room. Go to The Athletic and read that. And you know, the last couple of weeks they've been running play action a little bit more than they have, and maybe part of that is hopefully teams think we've found our receiver group that we're going to use. But with that, you mentioned James Cook and what his importance is to this offense and the way he's running the football. But to me, I go back to that previous matchup against New England, 3 turnovers in that game. New England gets 10 points off of those turnovers. And we've seen James Cook have a bit of the dropsies, a bit of the oopsies here with some fumbles of late. I was talking to a former player, a future Hall of Famer, essentially the other day, who was just like, it can get in your head. It can be something to where you start grabbing the ball a little bit tighter. You start thinking when contact comes, you start over maybe thinking the moment. Is there any thought to what's happening with James Cook? Because this is a massive part of this offense that they need down the stretch.
Yeah, I don't think he's there just yet. He's to describe his personality, he cares, but also he has doesn't care about him to where he just kind of lets things go off his shoulders. Yeah. So I think that's important to have that short-term memory sort of deal. This fumbling thing was also something for him early in his Bills career too. And he corrected it. It didn't really pop up but the last couple of years for the most part. And then, it reared its ugly head at the worst possible time against the Bengals, or so they thought, which to me at that point, it looked like the game was over because you knew the Bengals were about to march it down and score a touchdown. But lo and behold, the Bills somehow march it back and win that game. But that said, I think with James Cook, they are they're confident in him. I think he's confident in, this not becoming a huge problem. And it was very telling that as soon as that happened, they immediately went back to him, snap after snap after snap after snap. It wasn't a quick hook like it has been in past years with him. They know he knows better. They know that he's going to protect the ball when it comes down to it. So I think they're going to have to go through some more ball security stuff, and he has to be very aware that the Patriots are going to be punching at it time and time again throughout the game. And that, what you brought up, was a talking point from a lot of the Bills players yesterday in listening to them. They said, we learned about the Patriots that you can't turn it over against them. And that will be a huge piece of their puzzle, because they know the Patriots are really not apt to turn the ball over themselves. So if they're going to want to win, they know they need to play a clean game, and Cook will be certainly cognizant of that.
Yeah, James Cook, did those fumbles knock me out of the postseason in my fantasy league? Yeah. I'm not bitter at all, James.
No.
I'm not bitter at all, James. Lost by a point. James could have gotten into the end zone twice. My namesake, but that's okay. But listen, also New England knows about a running back having issues holding on to the football. So maybe it's like, hey guys, this happened with Ramondre Stevenson early in the season. This is what we need to do to knock it out for James Cook. That's going to be a massive part about the way this game is played, about how the Bills can control the football and keep Drake Maye off the field. Do you have a prediction before we go, Joe, on this one?
I'm going to be boring and say I still need to watch a bit more of the old Bills-Patriots game to get there, but I'm leaning towards the Bills way just because I really like their mentality heading into this one. But the one thing I will say is that Sean McDermott, throughout his career, is 0-3 against teams coming off the bye. And Mike Vrabel is 6-0 with Tennessee coming off the bye. So it would have to be a complete uprisal of both of those trends for it to happen. But that said, it is the time of year. The Bills know what's at stake. They know that the Patriots are going to be wanting to shut the door on them immediately. And I think this Bills team doesn't often get the opportunity to play the underdog role anymore like they used to. Mm-hmm. But when they did, they loved it back in the day. And I think this, even though they're favored, I think this might kind of serve as that sort of return to that mindset, even temporarily, to go, oh, you want to win the division? Maybe not by us. They're downplaying it. They're saying, oh, we're not really giving it much credence for the hat and T-shirt game or anything like that. But there's going to be something there inside the building where they're going, yeah, that's not happening on our watch. So I'm leaning that way, but I haven't solidified it just yet.
Awesome. Great stuff, Joe. I appreciate it. Enjoy Providence. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Sounds great, James.
All right, moving on our Scoop City Thursday road trip. Good buddy of mine, Nick Kosmider, joins us. Nick, this is the biggest question I think everybody's asking both of us in town. Has a run game been found? Is RJ Harvey going to be able to carry this run game after the loss of J.K. Dobbins? We saw some good moments, I'll bet, against the Raiders team. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the jury is still out in terms of can they put together a running game that they can truly lean on during this playoff run. But I do think there were some really encouraging signs against the Raiders, and in part because, when you look at a team put together 3 drives of at least 14 plays and 9 minutes, you can't do that without the running game factoring in. And I just thought that RJ Harvey, forget the opponent for a minute, was just a lot more decisive than we saw him the first 2 weeks after having taken over that lead back role. And, he looked to me like a guy that, doesn't necessarily look like a rookie now. I always think that when you get past the stage of however many games you had in college being a season, so now they're at week 13 or whatever it is, like you're not really a rookie anymore. And particularly because he's had this lead role now for close to a month, I think he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with the job and all aspects of it. Against Washington, I go back to that overtime drive. He catches a pass in the middle of the field, breaks a tackle, gets a 12-yard first down. On the next play, picks up a blitz that helps Bo Nix get out of the pocket and hit Adam Troutman for another first down. And then, of course, Harvey finished that drive with a 5-yard touchdown. He's been really good near the goal line getting into the end zone. So I think there's a lot of encouraging things that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. The question now is can they put it together consistently enough to have that run game really be able to anchor their offense during the playoff run?
Yeah, that's a great point. And especially having down the goal line, it's interesting because I was having this conversation with Maurice Jones-Drew a couple of weeks ago, specifically about RJ Harvey, and he was a big fan of him coming out, and he was just like, man, you don't understand. The reason he bounces everything outside is it is a split-second decision to find your spot in the between the tackles, and that's something that a lot of rookies are a little bit like, I'm safer out here. And that's something that RJ has done a lot, and it seems like maybe there's a little shift in that. In finding his way between the tackles. So we'll see if that continues to go. How about the offense as a whole, Nick? Like you wrote about it. Make sure everybody checks it out on The Athletic. Just what we're seeing, because that's the one aspect of a consistent Bo Nix, an efficient Bo Nix in this offense could be the one maybe thing that everybody's looking at as this team's looking to honestly make a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, I think the first thing I look at is since they came out of the bye, the last three are really going back to the Kansas City game. So the last 3 weeks, they've really cut down the offensive penalties. That was a big point of emphasis because Sean Payton's like, we're getting all these 3rd and longs because, we're getting too many holding calls or procedural penalties that are handicapping us on all these drives. And it's how you get into these chunks of 3 and outs. Last 3 weeks, they've only committed a combined 6 offensive penalties. Their average distance to gain on 3rd down has gone down sizably as a result. And that's created a lot more of the efficiency. The second thing is that they've really trimmed down the number of deep shots that they were taking. There was a stretch earlier to mid-season where it almost seemed like, I don't want to say reckless with how many they were taking, but there wasn't the intentionality there of really when they were firing up these deep shots. Through the first 10 weeks, Bo Nix had more deep pass attempts than everybody except for Matthew Stafford. And yet he was only completing 29% of those throws. And so when you're using it that much and it's that inefficient, it really starts to bog down your offense. Last 3 weeks, only 10 combined deep throws. He's completed 5 of them, but really been, I think, just a lot more comfortable using his legs to get out and find, kind of the intermediate shot, the check down, whatever it might be, in order to stay ahead of the sticks. And then getting to, they're good on 3rd down when they're in manageable situations. We saw it against the Raiders, 7 out of 12. Most of those were pretty manageable 3rd down scenarios. That's when Bo Nix is really good, and we've seen that. So I just think they're doing a couple things that are making them more efficient, and if they can continue that and add more improved running game that we were just talking about, I think that's their formula, particularly when we look at this Sunday and a Green Bay defense that just does not give up a lot of shot plays.
Yeah, they really don't. Make sure everybody goes back and watches yesterday's episode with Kurt Warner on there. He had a lot of great things to break down about Bo Nix, what he likes, what he needs to see to help him with this playoff run with Sean Payton and company. You mentioned Green Bay, and you mentioned 3rd down. When I look at Green Bay's offense, let's flip it to the other side here, and how good they have been on 3rd down, specifically 3rd and long. It's like unbelievable. Like 44% on 3rd and 7 or longer, which is like an insane amount of conversions for that. I look at what they can do with Jordan Love and go downfield and take these shot plays, and the Broncos' issues with maybe PI issues downfield and some of the things that have happened in the deep passing game against them. How do you see Denver's secondary being able to handle these shots that Jordan Love's going to be aggressive, Nick?
Yeah, you mentioned it, and I think that's a real key aspect of this game. Denver is the number 1 defense in terms of limiting opponent explosive plays. They're just even a hair better than Green Bay is in that regard. But you mentioned the penalties. That's an aspect that doesn't really get baked into that stat, right? Because a penalty non-play doesn't count to the formula, and Denver has had issues with that, particularly Riley Moss. And the thing that's challenging about Green Bay is, they have 4 different receivers that average 12 yards a reception. They're very egalitarian offensively. You can't really hone in on any one guy. Lately, it's been Christian Watson. He has averaging 85 yards receiving and has 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. But it can really be anybody, and that's what makes them, I think, so effective. That's where Denver, that's why you build, though, the secondary that they have. Over the last 3 weeks, they've really kind of shuffled in personnel. And part of that was when Pat Surtain was out, Jahdae Barron and Chris Abrams-Drain obviously got a lot more playing time during that time, played well. And Vance Joseph says they've earned the right to continue to be part of this thing. And so they're kind of matching up in ways in which they're using 6-7 defensive backs within the span of a couple plays. So I'll be really curious to see how they kind of disperse that playing time this week in order to create some of the matchups that they want to, because you the part of the reason they're so good on third and long or third medium or longer is because Jordan Love against the blitz has been fantastic this year. He knows where he wants to go. He obviously has the mobility to escape some of that pressure. So can Denver get to him with 4 or with simulated pressures that look like blitzes but bring 4? I think that's going to be another key aspect of this game.
Yeah, I remember talking to somebody in the building, Nick, when Surtain went down, and they were like, this may be a positive in the long run. Like, we may get a chance to get some of these guys some run, and when we look at it, in the back end of the season, we might be a better secondary for this handful of games that Pat missed, and I love that you touched on that. I want to kind of go macro here, and this week and Jacksonville next week. How important do you think this 2-week window is here for Denver, with as well as Jacksonville is playing? And I think this is a game that they would want to make sure everybody pays attention to them in Denver, and they're underdogs against Green Bay. Obviously, everybody's looking to see, is Denver going to slip up, or are they going to take another step? Where do you look at these next 2 games now?
Well, I think these next 2 games got a lot more important once Jalen Hurts' 5th turnover of that game Monday night landed in Tony Jefferson's hands, because now the margin for error, yes, Denver has a 2-game lead in the AFC West. However, as we know, the Broncos and Chargers will meet in week 18. So really, you can kind of look at it as just a 1-game lead, because if the Chargers were to win that game, they'd obviously have the tiebreaker, having already beaten Denver earlier this season. So the margin for error to win the West, while Denver's still in very good position for that, it tightened up after that game. So I would just say right there, from the standings perspective of it, these 2 weeks are huge. And again, you want to show that, like, coming into Denver this time of year, you kind of want to put the fear in other teams that are going to have to do that if you can win the division or get the number 1 seed. The Broncos have won 11 games in a row at home, and Power Field has turned into really one of the better home field advantages in the league. You go there every week. It's been really rowdy this year. So I just think being able to kind of continue to build on what you're doing and really, again, striking a little bit of fear into anybody that's going to have to come there come January.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, real quick before you go, because I just got to ask this, and you can be very brief with this. Where do you think Micah lines up on Sunday?
Everywhere, just about everywhere. The one thing I'll say, it was interesting. I'm sure you caught this. Sean Payton, after the game against the Raiders, is talking to Max Crosby, that it mic'd up, and he says, "Look, we have these different plays that when you're off the field that we're going to run. Problem is, you never come off the field. So I'm actually curious to see. Micah Parsons plays a ton, but 80% of the snaps. There will be some times that he's not on the field. Can Denver take advantage of those? I think that's as interesting as how they handle him when he is on the field.
I have an idea where he might line up. I'll text you. This is awesome, man. I'll see you on Sunday. Should be a great one between these two. A home underdog for a team that's won 10 straight, week 15. You don't see it very often. It's going to be fun.
Nope. But hey, Bo Nix's mom thinks they're going to win, so there's that.
That's all that matters. Mom's opinion. Nick, take it easy.
Thanks.
All right, our Thursday road trip around the NFL continues. Nate Atkins joins us now, covers the Rams brilliantly for us. You've been working, man, and you're going to keep working with these 2 games in 5 days, and they're 2 monster ones. You got the Lions and you got the Seahawks in the division. It's okay. Glad we got you. That's what I'm saying. I'm glad we got you, Nate, that you had the time to do this. That's what I'm saying here. Let's start with what you've recently kind of put together. I know we've talked a little bit about this 13 personnel that the Rams are using so much, and it's just actually an anomaly almost, because this is just out of the norm for Sean McVay's past and his history and what he's used to doing. But man, it has taken this offense to a whole nother level. And oftentimes you don't get better when arguably your maybe best weapon is off the field a little bit. But why are they even more difficult to defend with what you're seeing when you break it all down?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating evolution for them. They came into the year and they wanted to run a little bit more 12 personnel just to get Matthew Stafford under center and doing more play action and just taking fewer hits now that he's 37 and he has a back issue. But ever since they started the season just peppering the ball to Puka Nacua, and it looked like he was going to push for 2,000 yards. But he was getting banged up quite a bit. There were multiple games he had to leave for different injuries, and then he had to miss a couple weeks with a high ankle sprain. And all of a sudden, they're in Baltimore spending a week out there to practice before a trip to London, and they don't have Puka, and they've got all this time on their hands in the hotel just sitting around, and they start drawing up these 13 personnel plays, which they thought was just sort of a 1 week thing, get to the bye week, get Puka back. And they get out there against the Jaguars and they score 4 red zone touchdowns and 4 chances out of 13 personnel. And it was partly the tight ends went for 100 yards, but all of a sudden that was the game where Devontae Adams scored 3 touchdowns and he had only had like 1 coming into that. And so all of a sudden they just decided, hey, why not keep going with this? And they've used it pretty much ever since that moment. That was right before the bye. And then, that kind of sparked them on a 5-game winning streak. And now they're to a point where they are 5-0 in games where they run at least 10 plays of 13 personnel. And they just had a season high 40 plays out of that against the Cardinals, where they put up 530 yards and 45 points. And it was the first time that they've had 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in a game since the 2001 Rams, the greatest show on turf. So it is crazy how they have found a way to, take one of their best players off the field. And early on, that was Puka Nacua, and it was a little weird to see him at 45% snaps, and it was like, this is one of the best players in the NFL, and they were just not using him as much. But now they've kind of gotten into a rhythm where he's out there a little bit more. It rotates between whether he's off the field or Devontae Adams. If they're in the red zone, it's Adams is out there because he has 14 touchdowns, most in the NFL. No one seems to know what to do with him down there. But there's times where it's Puka, who's also a really good blocker, but he's got to be fresh enough to do that and not be trying to do it while injured or battling an injury. And so it's just giving them a certain balance where they've been the NFL's best rushing team since mid-season. And last week they put up 249 rushing yards on the Cardinals. Initially it felt like if they bring out 3 tight ends, then teams are just going to go heavy and how do they run? But right now they have teams in a bind where if they go heavy, then they throw with those guys and they go play action. If they go light, then they run it. And with the way their offensive line's playing, it's just very, very difficult to stop. So for right now, it's become a way to load manage a little bit with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. And it's also a way to lean into a run game that's playing really well and a way to get Blake Corum on the field more when you also have Kyron Williams. It's just kind of diversified their offense to where they're using a little bit of everyone and then saving Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams for what they do best, which is Puka more on third downs or kind of chunk plays to start drives, and Adams finishing the drive in the red zone. And so for right now, it's something Sean McVay hadn't done really ever, and now they're doing it a lot, and it's turned into their most balanced offense they've had since the greatest show on turf.
Yeah, it's been outstanding to watch. And this is something a lot of teams are doing, right? Going with heavier personnel, trying to put defenses in binds, like you said. And I was talking to somebody in the league the other day who said, this might really benefit Puka, this, limiting these snaps a little bit in terms of health. He's a guy that prides himself so much on the physicality he plays with. He's not enormous, Nate, right? He's not huge, but he loves to be physical. And maybe this might have a healthier Puka Nacua heading in for a Super Bowl run. You mentioned with Stafford, too, and I think they're right near the top of the league in terms of play action under center, bootlegs under center. That stuff has been really, really working well for them. Them versus Jared Goff, is this still a thing? Or are we past this? I mean, I was they both had 49 quarterback wins and 2 division titles since this trade. We obviously know the Rams got a Super Bowl, but is this still a thing, this trade with these 2 quarterbacks?
I think in a historical way, they're always going to be linked just because of the rarity of trading one starting quarterback for another starting quarterback, and they're both quite good. And then really it became pretty much a win-win for both teams if you think about where they were at the time. So the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it, obviously. But the Lions, and I covered that team just a couple years before that trade, that was about as hopeless as a franchise could be, where their star quarterback doesn't want to be there. It's a total rebuild. Usually when you're a bad team and you're searching for a quarterback, I mean, those teams stay bad for a long time, but all of a sudden the Lions in a couple of years are a perennial playoff team. And so it's not a thing within, I don't think it's a thing as much within the players, the locker room, the coaching staff. They all have a lot of respect here for what Jared Goff brought them when he was here. And then they're happy to see him succeed elsewhere, but they don't, they're not regretting anything about what they did to go get Matthew Stafford, especially with the season that he's having. And those two guys, having covered Stafford, and I've talked to Jared a little bit, I don't think those are guys that read a lot into that. And, there were a lot of emotions at the time. I know Jared Goff felt like he was just kind of cast aside, and there was a lot more excitement for Stafford, and that's when the Lions were rebuilding. But that's become his team in Detroit, and they're putting up seasons that they haven't for half a century with him. So I think he's very happy over there, and Stafford certainly is having the most fun he's ever had here. And so it's more of kind of a fun thing to think about, just the way that two teams found a new path by just swapping their quarterbacks. But I don't think there's animosity or anything too much more beyond that.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be something we're going to always focus on in terms of just seeing what the success is with both, because it's such, as you said, a rare trade. When we flip it to the defensive side of the ball, and you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, who might be the most electric player and explosive player in the league right now with what he's doing with the football in his hands, what do you see the Rams doing trying to limit him? Now, they've done good against the run. So, as a team this season, I think 3.9 yards a carry, have only given up 4 rushing touchdowns this season. I think that's the fewest in the NFL. Is there a thought of we have to focus, though, also on him as a pass catcher, him out of the backfield? What's the approach to stopping Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because, there have been a couple games now that Christian McCaffrey has really got them as a receiving back, when the 49ers have been able to force the Rams to play 2 linebackers. That's not the strength of this team, is to try and cover with their linebackers, at least on players as good as that. And so what the Rams want to do is they want to live in dime and nickel personnel. It's gotten a little harder because they don't have Quentin Lake, who I think is actually their best defensive player. He was big in terms of communicating and setting those matchups and then adding to the coverage. And so it is a challenge this week because also, they've got David Montgomery on Detroit, where they can just slam him up the middle. And if the Lions can create a balance between making them tackle David Montgomery and stay on the field, and then throwing to Jahmyr Gibbs, that's going to work pretty well. So the Rams have really been a good run defense this year. They don't really give up anything explosive at all. But I do think if you can use one of those running backs leaking out into a receiver situation, I think that's probably your best chance to use that position to the Rams' detriment.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I kind of have my eye on. Real quick, are they doing anything differently with these 2 games in 5 days as big as they are? Did they do any prep beforehand? You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't ever want to admit it as a staff, but we were working a little bit. I know the second one is a divisional game, so you oftentimes know a lot about that opponent. But what's the approach here with these 2?
So they went through a walkthrough practice on Wednesday, which is something they normally do at some point later in the season. But this felt like the perfect time to do it, just because they've got 2 games in 5 days. And one of those is a trip to Seattle. And we know how difficult that is and how important that game is going to be. So they're giving a few more rest days to guys that otherwise, aren't really battling injuries, but just could use a little bit of time off. I think they embrace the fact that once they get through that stretch, it's a mini bye, before they really a long mini bye, because they'll play Thursday against Seattle and then not until Monday night against the Falcons. And so it's really getting through that. And so they're planning to activate Tutu Atwell from injured reserve. That gives them one more fresh option that they can add to this 13 personnel approach and just really kind of load manage everyone. But it's also tough because they have to do everything they can to win these games. They're going to be very difficult games, and they're going to have to use their best players and their best plans. So it's really challenged the coaching staff to come up with a plan that's a little different, especially going up against Seattle, second time matching up against that team. And Seattle's defense gave them quite a few problems actually in the passing game last time. They got through because they intercepted Sam Darnold 4 times, but going into Seattle, that's less likely to be the path this time. So they just know as a coaching staff, they have to put together their best plan to use a wide range of these players and in a way that doesn't overexert any of them, but also can obviously go and win those games, because it just feels like this NFC West race is going to come down to that Rams-Seahawks second matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Many people believe this is the best team in football, so we're all, keeping an eye on what happens over the next 5 days. Nate, appreciate it. Thank you. We'll have you back soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, coming up on Scoop City, we have Jake Seeley joining us. He always brings a list to me. I'm bringing a list to him. My favorite rivers. What are they? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to Scoop City on a Thursday. That means Jake Seeley's going to join us, and we're going to talk about some fantasy football, even though I am no longer in the postseason. I did not make the playoffs. The goal line was a big issue for me. James Cook, Isaiah Likely with the drop. It was, it's over, Jake. It makes me not want to play next year, and then when the draft time comes around, then I'll play again.
Your biggest issue is everybody should be playing doubleheaders against the median, so your second score, because it sounds like a lot of those weeks you would have been solidly in the playoffs if not for that.
Nobody scored more points against. Nobody had more points against than me, which obviously you can't do anything about.
So you have a bad defense, is what you're telling me. You're the Bengals.
Course. Yeah, of course. I'm the Bengals. Yeah, exactly. Virtually non-existent. Same thing. All right. You usually come to us with a list.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you with a list today. Okay? Phillip Rivers has come out of retirement. I'm not sure if anybody's told you about this, but he's 44 years old, Jake. Oh, you have? Okay. He's come out of retirement. So I'm going to give you my 10 favorite rivers. Okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Number 10, the Amazon. Okay?
I mean, that feels like it has to be like higher.
Number 9.
But keep going.
Number 9, the Nile. Okay? Maybe I'm biased, but number 8 is the Colorado River. Maybe because I've rafted it, floated it, whitewater rafted it. It's a favorite river of mine. Okay, that's number 8. Number 7, riverboat gambling. I think it's a really good time. When you get like you're like I'm on land, but I'm not really on land. Riverboat gambling. That's number 7. Okay. Number 6, a little film that takes place on a river starring Meryl Streep, Kevin Bacon, and John C. Reilly. River Wild. I believe the kid from Jurassic Park's also in it. River Wild is a tremendous caper movie on a river, which you very rarely see. And Meryl Streep is a dynamite river. Okay. Number 5, lazy rivers. Is there anything more fun than a lazy river? Just chilling at a water park and enjoying a lazy river?
I saw a video where you can do that in Hawaii down the mountain, and it takes you through a cave. It's a lazy river that goes down the mountain.
Like a real life lazy river, not like a...
Yeah.
Yeah, with like where the jets are moving you around, and then a kid gets off his raft and he gets pulled away from his family, and you save him, and everybody make you feel great. Okay, number 4, River Phoenix, tremendous.
I was wondering if he was going to make it.
He's a top 5er. River Phoenix, Stand By Me is a top movie for me, and I also loved him as young Indiana Jones. He was just outstanding. Number 4, River Phoenix. Number 3. This was a gift given back and forth between a lot of members of my family in the late 90s. That was Billy Bass. Take me to the river. the Billy Bass thing that hung on your wall. Drop me in the water.
I live in Virginia. Since I was 8 years old. I hate those things because they are everywhere.
They're everywhere. Do you want to know something I did? So my basement to go down was like stairs go down, then a landing, then a turn, and then stairs go down, right? So at that landing, I hung a Billy Bass right there, which it's motion activated. So when you're in high school and all of a sudden you hear, take me to the river.
Oh, you know
mom is coming down the stairs to see if you and your friends are hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay. Genius, James. Number 2, A River Runs Through It. I'm a huge Robert Redford fan. I think River Runs Through It is an outstanding film. And number 1, on my favorite rivers, the compact disc, it was blue with 4 individuals across the front. It's still one of my favorite CD compact discs of all time. Weezer, lead singer, Rivers Cuomo, will be my number 1 Rivers on this list. River Cuomo. What do you think?
So, good list. You're missing 2.
Okay.
Old Man.
Old Man River?
Yeah, so Old Man River.
Old Man River. Okay.
That was the first one that came to mind to be kind of tongue-in-cheek. But no, River City Ransom, the video game, one of the best early beat-em-ups, like River City Ransom needed to be on your list.
River City Ransom. Okay, I'm making an 11 after the Amazon. River City Ransom. Okay.
No Danube or anything like that?
No, we're just going with, I think it's a pretty good list, though. Okay. let's talk some fantasy here. For people that are still participating, I thought this is a good deal.
Wait. What? Because of Phillip Rivers. Never mind. I was like, what made you come up with that? Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to be able to talk some fantasy football, Jake? Is your mind
apparently
right?
not? No.
Okay. Well, some people are in the postseason, myself not included. But listen, who's going to lead some teams into the postseason? Playoff winners, if you will. How are we going to get to that title, Jake?
Yeah, playoff winners is what you should have done. You got to do that voice with it. We're talking playoffs.
Playoffs.
There you go. That was a good one. I'll give you two, and then we'll pause because I know where the next two are going. But the two that I think that might be on rosters that people might be hesitating to use. The first is a running back, Woody Marks. Woody Marks has been somebody I've been a fan of since he came out of college, wondering what the Texans were doing all year long. But as you saw, DeMeco Ryans during their buys, like they're not rookies anymore. I guess buys is what makes players not rookies anymore. But whatever it's been, over the last 4 weeks, 21 touches a game. Nick Chubb just got banged up. His yards after contact percentage is higher than Bijan Robinson and Travion Henderson. Now, I'm not saying Woody Marks is better than them or even in the conversation, to be honest. It just kind of gives you an idea of what he's been doing even behind that offensive line. And it's got the second best schedule, the Texans, down the stretch, 4 running backs specifically with the Cardinals, Raiders, and Chargers. So love some Woody Marks. If you got here with him, you can trust him. And then at wide receiver, since the day he came back, I was telling people on waivers, pick him up. He performed. People were still hesitant because they had been disappointed by him in the past. And I'm like, pick him up, pick him up, pick him up. And people finally have picked him up enough, but you can also start him in the playoffs. Christian Watson. Like, I know, like I said, years before, people were like, oh my gosh, I just wish Christian Watson could be what we want him to be. He is what you want him to be. And I know people are worried about the Broncos this week, but twofold. Jaden Reed just came back, which you well know, everybody knows. But I really liked what I thought would happen and did happen with Jaden Reed is that he kind of filled the Tucker Kraft void more than anything. That intermediate to soften things up downfield. Yep. And then we know how good Patrick Surtain is. Like, I know people are hesitant this week, but what we also know is that big wide receivers, 6'4", 200-plus pounds, Christian Watson, can sometimes, especially with their speed, get behind Surtain. It doesn't happen all the time, but I'm bringing it up just to say that I'm not concerned about him this week, but especially after this week. He's got the best 2-game set of schedules for wide receivers in the final 2 weeks. So Christian Watson, maybe you're hesitant this week, but if you have that bye, even better, the next 2 weeks after that, keep him in your lineup.
Gotcha. And I don't even know if Surtain travels with him the whole game, honestly.
That's a really good point, too.
Yeah, exactly, with the way the Packers are built. Okay, then let's go with Saboteurs.
Saboteurs.
Saboteurs. I like this.
Guys that might send you down the river. There you go. So that one.
Yeah. I should have said dead bodies floating. Bloated bodies in the river.
Bloated bodies. That makes a really good sight in your mind. Tony Pollard just came off a huge game, but I will caution people because Tony Pollard last year with all the touches was barely an RB2. This year, before we got Tajay Spears back, barely an RB2. It was his first double-digit score since week 5. He has one of the worst schedules for running backs with the 49ers, Chiefs, and Saints. On top of it, because it's the Titans offense, he has 4 goal line carries the entire season and has converted just 2 of them. I mean, I guess 50% is not the worst rate in the world, but the 4 goal line opportunities is one of 2 of 4. The 4 is the big thing. And at quarterback, now I could look stupid after this game against the Commanders, but the biggest thing about Jaxson Dart that I'm hesitant with is that before, and we knew this, 46% of his value came from rushing. And of that 46%, almost 60% was from the rushing touchdowns. And he had 11% design rushing yards. And so I'm bringing that up to say this, is that I know who Jaxson Dart is, the player. Like, I'm not just going to throw a bunch of metrics at everybody. But in that first game back, 0 design rushes, no touchdowns, 20 yards on the ground. If they're going to do this to him for the rest of the season, it's going to be bad for us in fantasy. Now, maybe they just wanted to do that first game back, the bye, they see the Commanders, and they open up the doors again. I want to see it before I trust him, just because we know that Dart's only going to throw maybe 200 yards and a touchdown. He needs to be able to do it on the ground, and if he's not, he's going to kill you in the fantasy playoffs.
Saboteurs.
Yeah,
it's like that, like, shiny object right there. You're like, he can do it, but it's like, Jake tells you why you might want to go elsewhere.
He's Giants Daniel Jones right now.
Whoa. Giants fans don't want to hear that, man.
I said right now. Now.
Okay. Right now. There it is. Do you feel upset that I did a list and you didn't do a list, Jake? Or did you
No,
like
I actually
this
appreciated it because it was perfect timing because I'm going to see John Cena's final match on Saturday. So I did the top 10 WWE matches since John Cena debuted in 2000. So I knew you had nothing. So
I had
that
nothing to
worked out
contribute to
perfect.
that at all. Absolutely nothing to contribute to that. I appreciate it. That's why we did the
So perfect timing with that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Next Thursday, I'll do my favorite tributaries and reservoirs. will be where we head.
No deltas?
Next,
Throw some of those in there?
Yeah, our favorite deltas. Yeah. I didn't even have the Mississippi on that. What do you think about that?
It's overrated. It's America's.
Yeah, I think it's
just
overrated
big.
too. Yeah, it killed my boy Jeff Buckley. I'm not a fan of that. Okay, coming up on Scoop City, finishing this out on a Thursday, I'm going to tell you what's going on inside the Chiefs facility as they are hanging on at, I won't say their record, trying to get into the postseason. More Scoop City coming up. The college football playoff bracket is set after a roller coaster of a season. The Final 12 will thrash it out to make January's national championship game. And The Audible, the Athletics' dedicated college football podcast led by Bruce Feldman, Stuart Mandel, and Ralph Rousseau, will cover every blade of grass on the field. Who have you guys got to go all the way? I know who I got. OH, baby. Go Bucks. All right, welcome back to Scoop City on a Thursday. James Palmer here with you as we close things out. I mentioned what's going on with the Chiefs. What are they thinking right now as they sit at a record of 6-7? Stop. Listen, I want to take you inside the facility a little bit as talking to some sources there, because right now where things stand is a place that we've never seen in the Patrick Mahomes era. We already know that they are not going to win the division, which they've done every single year. All 7 years that Patrick Mahomes has been a starter, we now will have a different team, whether it's the Broncos, most likely right now, or the Chargers, will win the AFC West. Now, Mahomes has been to the AFC Championship game in every single season he's been a starter. That's all 7 seasons. That's at least the AFC Championship game. That could still be in play, but a lot of things need to happen for that to still be in play. Right now, they have a 14% chance of making the postseason. They lose to the Chargers, that drops to a 1% chance. They win out the rest of their games. That's about a 50% chance, but they need some help. Why is it dropped to a 1% chance? Because right now, we could be having a show on Scoop City with Chase Daniel and Diane Rossini and myself, and we're breaking down, for the first time ever in this Patrick Mahomes era, the Chiefs have been eliminated from the postseason. Now, they can be eliminated with a loss to the Chargers, a Bills win, and 2 of these 3 teams get wins, the Texans, Colts, and Jaguars. That's very realistic because a lot of those teams are playing very, very good football, and that would eliminate the Kansas City Chiefs. So what is the mindset inside this building right now? Well, I was texting with a couple of sources, and this one, quote, was brought to me, and I thought it was brilliant. It said, I'm told we have a hopeful depression right now inside the building, that we still know that we have a chance, but obviously chances are very slim, and we know we could be playing better with the talent we have. So there is a, quote, hopeful depression. What's exactly gone wrong during this time period? Well, I was told it's really kind of like we're a band, maybe a rock band, maybe a jazz band. I don't know what type of music you listen to, but say a band with many pieces. And oftentimes when a band sounds really good, they're all playing in the same rhythm. They're all playing together. They're all playing on the same beat. I was told we're not playing like a band that's on its same beat. We have a lot of talented musicians, but we are not playing within rhythm. We are not playing together in that sense. If we do find a way to start playing in rhythm, they still believe they could win a Super Bowl this year. That's how talented they think they are. So that's the mindset within the Chiefs building. Andy Reid still believes hope is an extremely important thing. And I think they believe that they have some veterans, that this might be it for them. And I know they want to play for them as well. So we'll see what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs. But the fact that there's a realistic path for them to be eliminated from the postseason in week 15 is just something we've never seen before. And so we're going to keep an eye on it. And we're going to see if that band can continue to, find its way. And if they do, we'll see. If they don't, well, they'll have some more gigs in 2026. All right. I want to thank everybody who's been a part of Scoop City on a Thursday. James Palmer, that's myself. Joe Buscaglia, Nick Kosmider, and Nate Atkins joined us, as well as Jake Seeley. Everybody enjoy your week 15 of football. Keep an eye on that scenario I mentioned about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Thanks for watching Scoop City. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. New episodes of Scoop City drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.